Hello everyone and welcome back to Mistakes Were Made. We are here at the dining room table and we are getting ready to do our budget with me for the first pay period of October, which is the 1st through the 15th. Now, if you've been following our channel, you know that we just finished doing our budget recap for the last pay period, the second pay period of September, where we got to pay off the Reflect card. Oh, so excited about that. If you are new, I hope you find this next video interesting and that you take some time to watch some of our other videos. Now, normally we would be doing this budget with me before we would do our budget recap for the previous pay period, but I wanted to get everything else squared away with the debt getting paid off so that we could start the month fresh and really focus on our last shared credit card. But let's get started. One of the benefits of us waiting to do this now is we do have more information than we normally would at this point. So we do know that Mr. M's pay is going to be $1,931.05. My pay is $2,226.85. We don't have any miscellaneous income that we're aware of, and of course we do not do any speculative amounts for Etsy because you just don't know what kind of sales you might have. We do know that the buffer rollover ended up being $200.11. So let's do some math. But you know what? I forgot to zoom in. There we go. Hopefully that's helpful. So $1,931.05 plus 2,226.85 plus $200.11. So our total income is going to be $4,358.01. All right. Now for this section, these are our monthly expenses. So they're utilities, subscriptions, insurance, those sorts of things. They are in the order that they are come out of our account. So we will not be worrying about these because they are second pay period items. So we do have the first of two mortgage payments of $875. Netflix is $15.49. Kindle Unlimited is $11.99. My car insurance is $129.25. We already did get the water bill, so normally in the past we have been guesstimating $125. I was planning on kind of bumping that up to $135 because the last few months it had been in the 130s. We haven't quite had enough new invoices to determine an average, but the invoice came in already and it has actually already been paid, so we know it is $133.99. I am not going to put it in the actual until we actually do our budget recap, but that is the right number. And then Mr. M's insurance is $255.75. All right, so let's add that all up. $875 plus $15.49 plus $11.99 plus $129.25 plus $133.99 plus $255.75 gets us a total of, let me scooch up just a smidge here, $1,421.47. We are going to subtract our income amount of $43.5801 from that, and that leaves us with $2,936.54. Next in the list is our savings. So we do not fund the emergency fund during the first pay period. We aren't going to put anything for the extra job loss savings until we finish this process, but we do want to note our buffer amount. We'll just leave it blank as far as the change for now. So the total, for this initial math part will just be 200. We'll go ahead and add 200 to that to bring us our remaining income amount of $2,736.54. Next, we have our cash envelopes. If you are new, these are all of the envelopes that we do stuff over the course of the month, but not all of them get stuffed during each pay period. So we're only going to worry about the ones that we do stuff during the first pay period or that get stuffed during both. So first item is going to be car maintenance, which gets $100. Christmas gets $12, and then dining out gets $50, as does entertainment. Garden and yard gets $25. Gas gets $100. Giving gets $5. Grocery gets $200. Health gets $10. Household gets $25. Licenses gets $11. And then taxes gets $20. Now, something I just realized today, I happened to be looking at my car. We are going to have to renew our tags for my car next year. And I was thinking about, do I want that to come out of licenses or out of car maintenance? And I think we're going to do it out of car maintenance, just because the tags don't quite feel like a license and it feels a little bit more specific to cars. So that's a cost that we're going to need to bear, but we do have a fair amount in our sinking fund for that, so we should be fine. But it was one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to have to do that next year. And it's earlier in the year, so that's why it even came up. But we will get that all squared away. And so we'll add all of these together. 100 plus 12 plus 50 plus 50 plus 25 plus 100 plus 5 plus 200 plus 10 plus 25 plus 11 plus 20 for a total of $608. All right, and then we'll just subtract the remaining income that we had in the previous section, which was $27.36.54. So we are left with $2,128.54. All right, so what a fantastic moment. We are able to mark both the Citibank and the Reflect off of here. Obviously, we paid Citibank a while ago, but these are old sheets. We only have Discover left. So again, if you are new, we do have a set amount that we have put into our budget to go towards debt. It is $1,225 originally, and then when we started to get to payment amounts that are a little bit higher and we felt more comfortable splitting them in half, we added $1 to make it easier to divide. So $1,226 is the budget amount for debt. And now that we have managed to pay the Reflect card off, that entire amount is set to go towards Discover. But again, $1,226 is a lot to come out at one time, so we are going to continue to do the same thing that we've been doing as the snowball effect has built for the other ones, and break that up into 2 payments, one during each pay period. So for this first pay period, we will be doing a payment of $613 for Discover. Now, we're not going to worry about the extra debt payment again until we finish this process. So the total amount is going to be $613 here. So I'm going to slide this back over. We'll add $613 since the number was a negative. And that brings our remaining income down to $1,515.54. We still have my allowance, which is going to be the $30. So $30 total. And I'll just be lazy and add that on there. So that brings us down to $1485.54. And then last but not least, we do have the first of two auto transfers for our long-term goals. Now this, right now we had been focusing on yard cleanup, but we're going to take a mini hiatus this month because we have plans to go to our favorite farm/orchard up in Hood River and get some apples. Every year, Mr. M does a hard cider thing where he ferments the cider and all this other stuff. And I like to make a big batch of applesauce and get that jarred up and into the cupboards or into the freezer, depending on, whatever method I decide to take. So this month, the $200 is going to go to apples. I don't anticipate it's going to take all $200. I can't remember what we spent last year. I'm pretty sure it was actually less than $100, but I want to be prepared. Costs are going up everywhere, and I just feel more comfortable having more than we need rather than less. And anything that is left over after we have made our purchase, which we probably do in November because there's a certain type of apple, crab apple, that typically is not available until November, we will put back towards the yard cleanup. So our total down here is $100, which brings our remaining balance down to $1385.54. Okay, so we've got $1,385 left over, and our normal procedure would be to do our ratio of deviating, that is not the right word, divvying up this leftover amount between debt and savings. Now, we've had a number of people who gave the suggestion in our last video of us potentially changing the ratio that we have been doing and upping the amount that goes towards debt, with the idea that maybe it would help us to pay the credit card off faster and, maybe cut a month or whatever off. Now, it is funny that people had put that suggestion out there because, believe me, that is something that did come up for us as well, and we were talking about it. So the fact that there are like minds out there makes me feel, a little bit more confident in potentially going that route. However, as you may know, I am one of those kinds of people who wants to kind of see what changes are and how they're going to affect, our status quo. I have my spreadsheets, which I love, and I have a number of different scenarios that I have outlined on those spreadsheets, and they go out until June of next year. So what I did was on each of those months up through, I think I did it through January or February, I kept the 75-25% ratio, but I also did calculations for an 85-15 and a 90-10. So what I determined was, even at the very highest level of debt to savings ratio, meaning 100% towards debt and 0% towards savings, we would not be able to pay the card down enough for it to be paid off in November. So changing our ratio would, yes, allow us to pay it off sooner. And I should put a caveat on there. We wouldn't be able to pay it off at the end of November, but the payment that would come out that first, when it would be another $613, would actually only be, I think it was like $50 or $75. So we would be really, really close, but it wouldn't be a payoff. That is also with me fudging the numbers a little bit, making an assumption that Mr. M's pay will be, in the $1,925 range, which at least right now, is kind of accurate rather than using the 1875 minimum, as well as guesstimating about $150 of incentive pay, net pay, each month for my incentive amount. Those are speculative. It could be that I would get less. It could be that I would get more. But using that criteria is what I did for the calculations, and we were still just a little bit short of being able to pay it fully in November. And of course, that absolutely predicates on me working, through November as well. However, that said, just because we wouldn't be able to, kind of knock a month off does not mean it's a bad idea. And in fact, I do believe us paying more towards debt would be our best bet, because in the event I don't work in November and October is the last month that I am working, if we are more front heavy on the debt repayment side in October, that will change the calculation and timeline for how long it takes us to pay the Discover card off, in a scenario where I am not working starting in November. Because I believe that timeline, it was going to be, we would pay it off at the end of February. I have run so many numbers in so many scenarios that they do kind of meld a little bit. But with us upping the amount that we put towards debt, I want to say that shifted from end of February to either the beginning of February, maybe even the end of January for a payoff, even without, the extra money at the end of each pay period because the job has gone away. So that's a whole lot to say. We are going to change our ratio from the 75-25% split to a 90-10% split. So let's see what that looks like. So we're going to do 90% going to debt and 10% going to savings. We did decide not to go the whole hog 100%, 0%, because we do still want to hedge our bets and have just a little bit still going to savings. So we've got $1,385.54. We're going to subtract 90%, which means we will have $138 going over to savings. That also means we can fill that in over here. So 138, and we know that the change for the buffer is going to be the 54 cents that's left over here. So now we will take our 1,385 and subtract 138, and that means for debt we will have $1,247. Now, normally here is where I would be going into, for the main debt, I want the numbers to be nice and round, end in 00, 25, 50, or $75, and then any extra would go to the secondary debt. We are not going to be doing that for this process. I mean, yes, we do have the car payment and credit card for Mr. M, but we are keeping this as a separate or a contained process. We will deal with his debt stuff once this is completely taken care of. And we did have the discussion as whether we wanted to do that, and he was like, no, I want to get this Discover card cleared up. So, I was like, hey, that's cool with me. And I think it'll make it more organized as well, because we won't be splitting money going in multiple different directions. So I think it'll just be easier for us to do it that way. So the entirety of the $1,247 is going to go to debt. We will put that, right up here. $1,247. I guess I'll put it up here even though we don't have any other place that it's going to go. So Discover will get that. So that would be a very nice introduction to the reduction of the Discover card debt, approximately, $1,850 plus dollars. So we'll see where the pay period takes us. One of the things that did come up in the comments as well, because Discover is our last card and it is the one that has interest, there were questions on whether we are going to pursue a 0% promo or not. And like always, I did do, calculations and scenarios to see. And right now, if we're going with the assumption that I am working through November and everything goes well with the budgets, the expectation is this will be paid off no later than the end of December. And that timeline, doing a balance transfer would not make sense because the amount that we would be charged in interest is actually less than the amount we would be charged for a balance transfer fee. However, there are a couple things that could change the thinking on that. The main one being, if I do not work in November, if my job does go away at the end of this month in October, we will absolutely be looking at a balance transfer to do, because that will change the timeline. And the initial expectation would be we would be paying it off towards the end of February, though with the new 90/10 that could shift to a January timeframe. But either way, that difference in payoff time flips the switch. So the amount that would be charged for a balance transfer fee would actually end up being less than what we would end up being charged for interest over that time period to get it paid off. The other thing that we have to keep in mind is we are starting to get into the winter months. And so, of course, electric and gas are going to start going up again. And that means while I still have the job, especially, we'll have potentially have less money available at the end of each pay period. So that could play a part too. But for right now, the way things look, and kind of the hassle of finding a place to do the balance transfer and getting that all put in place, it just doesn't make sense. But we are keeping our options open, and if things change, then that will be something that's on the table that we'll be wanting to pursue. So excellent questions. And speaking of that, if you do have any questions that we haven't answered or any feedback, just want to say hi, all of that sort of thing, please note those down below. I do try and read every single one and respond to them in one way or another. I very much appreciate the time that you have taken to watch our videos and to be here to celebrate when we have a big win like the Reflect card, and more importantly, the motivation and encouragement that you guys have provided throughout this whole process. As those of you who have been here from the beginning know, I was quite a mess at the start of this, and we really didn't have any clue what we were doing. And I think we have come very, very far in that time now. I'm not going to say that life is not stressful or that this isn't difficult in an ongoing process. I mean, we are still working on keeping our habits in a beneficial path and not falling back on the way that we used to spend money and things like that. So it's always an ongoing process for us, but it has been incredibly helpful having the channel, having people there to keep us accountable, to keep ourselves accountable, and just to have people rooting for us. We all are coming from different situations, different budgets, different scenarios that we're dealing with, and the positivity that has been paramount in the comments has been wonderful. And I've been very appreciative of the not the examples, but the suggestions that have been out there as well. Some of them we are able to use and implement. Some of them are not the right fit, and some we keep in the back of our mind in case, the situation changes, because they might be a better option as our situation changes. So yeah, I know I'm babbling, so I will put this to an end and just say thank you so much once again, and I'll see you in the next one.